Why might we be losing the war against antisemitism and division in Australia? It might be something as basic as having the wrong mental model of the disease, as we discussed in another video in this series. To understand why that might be the case, consider the following parable. The parable of the empire and the plague. Once there was a magnificent empire that ruled over land and sea. Its cities were centers of commerce, art, science, and learning. Its armies policed the frontiers, and its navies kept the waterways safe and free. Its leaders were most virtuous, its alchemists, magi, and philosophers most brilliant, its art the most breathtaking, its engineering the most awe-inspiring, and most important of all, its holy men were as kindly and wise and holy as any holy men could possibly ever be. As you can imagine, the subjects of this empire were the most happy and prosperous of any people before them or any who would ever follow. And then one day there descended upon the empire a plague. It ravaged cities, it terrorized communities, and the people turned to the holy men to tell them what to do. Everyone looked to the holy men with desperation and supplication. Lords and their peasants, patricians and plebeians, even the emperor himself. They wanted to know, why has this plague come upon us, and how shall we make it go away?
You say AIDS is God's judgment on homosexual promiscuity.
Which was just common sense.
We pay the price when we violate the laws of God.
Who could argue with the importance of obeying the laws of God? Who could dispute facts that everyone could see? The plague was plainly most prevalent in the brothels and taverns and the bathhouses where those promiscuous people were known to congregate. The people resolved to obey God's laws. They prayed more. They tithed more. They warned the promiscuous and the morally degenerate to repent and change their ways. They did everything the holy men told them to do, but the plague would not go away. You must do it more, said the holy men. The devil isn't easily overcome. And they did do more. And the plague would still not go away. And then one day the holy men discovered a problem that was staring them all in the face. There were heretics who were leading people astray.
Abandoning Israel, we desert God.
These wicked tricksters were teaching the people to ignore the laws of God, to ignore what the holy men said about degeneracy and promiscuity, claiming that God didn't care who they loved or how, and that the very idea was the work of man's imagination, not the will of God.
It's inverted. So the lives of the children of Gaza and the other people of Gaza are considered not to be precious.
They even claimed that this whole obsession with certain kinds of sex, instead of the meaning of the scriptures, was nothing short of idolatry.
But the right of the existence of Israel as a Jewish state with a certain political system is considered sacrosanct. And to me, that's idolatry.
They told the people that the plague had nothing to do with God, that it had nothing to do with anything, just a packet of proteins and genetic material arranged so perfectly as to insert itself into certain immune cells, CD4 positive T cells, hijacking them into the service of replication rather than their purpose of fighting disease. To end it, the heretics claim, we simply needed to practice what they called safe sex to inhibit the plague's transmission, while our magi and philosophers worked out how to thwart its work inside our bodies, and one day even teaching our immune cells to recognize and kill it so that it would go away. To the holy men, this was heresy on top of blasphemy.
Rabbis know that if you publicly criticize Israel too harshly, you very may well lose your job. Or if you're a teacher at a Jewish school or a Jewish camp, people know this very well.
Worse, it was a danger to the very safety of the realm.
Biggest single enemy to the Jewish people are not the Islamic supremacists. The biggest enemy you have is inside the wire.
Instead of fearing the fury of God and changing their promiscuous and degenerate ways, these heretics were encouraging more of it, telling young people that they could do whatever they wanted.
We wanted you to be Zionists. We did not intend that our emphasis on tikkun olam, social repair, would lead some Jews to join anti-Israel demonstrations.
Love whom they wanted to love, as long as it was safe. They were actually promoting the very wickedness that brought God's judgment upon us. What's worse, they were doing it deliberately.
If Jews raise a fist, they raise a fist in order to smash their own chests.
No matter how they dress it up, it's anti-Semitism.
They were doing it because they hate the empire.
We've got people in our country who hate our country.
And this issue is not just about Jews, it's about America.
They hate its values.
Who are calling Australia home when they don't have Australia in their heart.
And they're not just opposed to Jews, although they are.
They hate its heroes and virtues.
They hate us, they hate our values, they hate what we stand for.
They're opposed to the West, they're opposed to capitalism, they're opposed to America.
They aren't like us and will never be.
A lot of people don't want to integrate.
And so whatever one may think of them as individuals, personally, no matter how sympathetic or even reasonable some may appear to be,
Anti-Israel Jews are not part of a big tent.
as emperor, it is your duty to never lose sight of the danger they pose to all of us collectively.
You have an enemy inside the wire.
And you have to fight them. You have to fight them the same way as you fight other anti-Semites, because they are simply Jewish anti-Semites.
They told the emperor he must convene the imperial cabinet, and he did so right away.
National Cabinet will convene on that, and there's a couple of other issues.
Consuls, praefecti, and legati all summoned to the capital and assembled at the court. The empress, beloved and trusted consort and counselor to the emperor, co-ruler and Augusta in her own right, rose to speak. The lesson of Sodom and Gomorrah teaches us where promiscuity, wickedness, and contempt for God's laws
leads if it's not confronted.
And so they resolved to confront it, to root out the heretics and stamp out the heresy. Blasphemous scrolls were identified and banned from the public square.
What's going on over at the ABC with anti-Semitism? They keep putting out all this Jew-hating garbage, then deleting it when they inevitably get rinsed. Today they've deleted an anti-Israel TikTok video featuring a Palestinian reporter.
Denying access to food is collective punishment.
Israel will argue, obviously, that it has a right to defend itself.
People were terrified of using the word genocide in coverage. They still are.
The most well-known heretics were denounced and disgraced.
Just last week, a court case began over the ABC's sacking of high-profile presenter Antoinette Lattouf, while in another case, cricket commentator Peter Lawler was told to pack his bags.
There's also a climate of fear that exists in the American Jewish community.
The campaign against Gary Lineker has been vicious and lengthy and led by the UK Lawyers for Israel.
The judge suppressed for 10 years the names and addresses of a group called Lawyers for Israel.
This was a manufactured backlash.
Who were allegedly behind the campaign of complaints against Lattouf.
Others, toiling amongst the scribes and officials, were discovered privately agreeing with the heretics.
Accused of anti-Semitism after he was exposed for tweeting terrorist propaganda and anti-Israel conspiracies.
They were rooted out and revealed.
Survey by the Anti-Defamation League finding that anti-Semitism is still on the rise in America.
But the plague still would not go away.
So to see that more than double in just 5 years is shocking.
It kept spreading.
Anti-Jewish sentiment around the world is at its highest level since the survey began a decade ago.
And kept getting worse.
The lids have been blown off the sewers by the anti-Zionists. So
I don't want to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, but
they're the same. They're two hues of the same color.
And then one day the Augusta whispered to her husband, the emperor, "We've listened to the holy men for years. We've done everything they told us to do. Why don't we summon some of those heretics and just hear what they have to say?" And so quietly, without fanfare, some of the heretics were brought out from the dungeon and granted an audience, not with the imperial couple, that would be too alarming in the middle of a plague, but with a magister officiorum, what today we would call a foreign minister, whose judgment, confidence, and discretion they trusted. Unfortunately, you know what it's like inside the imperial palace. The statues have ears, the mosaics have eyes. The holy men quickly learned of the encounter and condemned the magister's treachery.
Have a look. Exactly who Penny Wong has given credibility to by posing in photographs with him and meeting him in her office. It's the head of the Australia-Palestine Advocacy Network, Nasser Mashni.
But it was too late. Her Excellency Magistra Penelope found the heretics persuasive and persuaded the imperial couple. They decreed that safe sex be taught in schools and ordered the magi and philosophers to study the plague, not as judgment from God, but as the packet of proteins and genetic material the heretics claimed it to be. And within a decade, the plague had ceased to be. The emperor and his Augusta realized that they had been wrong to listen to the holy men, and would never again allow themselves to believe that their subjects
paid our country
simply because the holy men said so. The holy men, recognizing the error of their ways, threw themselves before the emperor's mercy. "Forgive us, Lord Emperor, it was the devil who led us astray." The Augusta, seeing their trembling, was moved to sympathy. Her heart softened as she recalled the many things they said over the years which were wise. She reminded the emperor that even as they got the plague wrong, they got many other things right. The empire needed them too. One day, it might be the heretics who were wrong about something. The emperor rose to speak, addressing the trembling holy men. "It was not the devil who led you astray," he declared, "but your own immovable and unchallenged assumptions. You persecuted my subjects. You hindered my physicians. You discouraged the people from protecting themselves, all because of ideas about the world you inherited from your predecessors, which you had no interest in challenging or validating yourselves. And most unforgivable of all, you showed no curiosity to understand, even as the empirical evidence mounted, that your understanding of the world was wrong, and your advice to my court misguided. But I see in your terror that a lesson has been learned. Rise and be pardoned, but take care to never let yourselves forget it." And with that, the emperor pardoned the holy men. They returned to their flocks. The people resumed their lives, and the empire reigned for another 1,000 years. In fact, it lives on to this very day in the memory of those who know what was once possible for humanity, and maybe one day shall again be.
Strength and honor. Strength and honor. Strength and honor.
The lesson of the parable is not that the holy men were wrong. Anyone can be wrong. It's not a crime to be wrong. Their crime, if I may say so, was that they were incurious. Indeed, Sir John, that is the lesson of the parable of the empire and the plague.